Well, hello, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I'm Pastor Joe Fox. I did a video recently about securing your retreat in a WROL situation, and I said we're going to go deeper into it, and we are. But the first thing I think I need to get across is I could come to your place and give you a couple ideas of how to effectively defend your retreat. But let's face it, you're not going to pay me to do that, and I'm not going to fly out there for free to do it. And without being on your site and seeing all your particulars, I can't tell you how to secure your retreat in the most optimal manner. All right? But what I can do is give you principles, give you techniques that you then apply yourself to your own situation. And in the end, that's a better way to do things. It's not as instantly gratifying as if I say, this is how you secure your retreat. Do this, 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 and this, and you're good. But if I give you these concepts, you'll understand them better. And so, the question, hey, Pastor Joe, how many people is it going to take to defend my retreat? That depends. How many hours should I have my guard force on duty before I have to rotate them, for a sleep plan or a food plan or a work plan? That depends. Everything depends. Everything in a military context, and let's face it, if you're pulling security, at least from my perspective, that's a military type thing. All right, based on what I know. And so what does it depend on? It depends on METT-TC. Everything in a military context depends on METT-TC. We used to say, well, that's METT-T dependent, or METT-TC. C's a little bit new. This is just an acronym, which we're going to go over today. When I joined the military back in the 80s, it was just MET. And then they added a T, and they said, well, we're going to call it METT. And then, some major in the Pentagon said, hey, we need to add a C. And so they added METT-TC, and that's what it's called. Here's the deal. There's nothing really new here. Maybe the term is new, but George Washington used METT-TC when he was planning campaigns against the British in the 1700s. Genghis Khan used METT-TC when he was running around Asia. The Vikings used METT-TC when they were planning a raid on the coast of Ireland or something. And so we're going to go over that today, and hopefully, this is normally at like the infantry center. This can be an all-morning class, like a 4 or 5 hour class. We're not going to spend that much time. I'm just going to go over the basics of it, and then you can kind of do some of your own research. So what's the M stand for? And oh, by the way, this is my backwoods PowerPoint here. So, the slide goes, and then that comes up. The M in METT-TC stands for mission. So, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it depends on your mission. What is your mission? Your mission, in this case, is to secure your perimeter. All right? Secure your perimeter for how long, from who, when do you want to secure your perimeter? We like to say that a mission is a task and a purpose. The task is to secure the perimeter. The purpose is to, provide for the security of the people who live on your community or at your ranch or, bug out retreat or something like that. So that's the mission. So before you can determine your guard force, you've got to get into your mission a little bit and decide what is it that you really want to do? What is it that you really want to accomplish? Don't just say, well, we're going to guard the retreat. Man, what's that mean? Are we going to guard the entire retreat so that not one person can sneak in doing a low crawl through any part of your perimeter? If so, you're going to need a lot more people and resources. Are we going to guard our retreat, for 24 hours during hours of darkness? What? So spend some time working on your mission. Another way people used to do mission is who, what, when, where, and why. Right? You need the why. People need the why. That's why we say task and purpose. That allows your subordinates, if they know why you want to accomplish something, then if the plan doesn't work right, they still know what you want to get done, why you want it done, and they can adapt on the fly. So, very briefly, that's mission for METT-TC. The E, very important, stands for enemy. Who are you conducting this mission against? If you're defending your retreat, who's the enemy? You have to know this, all right? Are you defending against, 3 meth addicts that live two miles away, and they may be coming in to see what they can find and sell at the pawn shop? Or are you defending against, a gang that's come out of the city that's coming there, which if you live in the country, they're probably not. Are you defending against, the Chinese version of Delta Force? I mean, these things matter in how you plan your defense. And so you're going to have to do some research. You're probably going to have a whole section of your people that do what we call intelligence and intelligence gathering and analysis and assessment. But you're going to have to define the enemy. Who is the enemy? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How do they attack? How do they defend? How do they operate? What do they look like? What do they drive in? And again, whole classes can go into that. But you might want to start making friends and networking with people, talking to people so that you can start getting news coming into your system. If there's some type of gang, let's just call it, the backwoods boys or something that are starting to hit homesteads, you want to know about that before they show up at your homestead. And so you're going to have to know people, you're going to have to talk to people, you're going to have some kind of communication going on so that you can start gathering information so that hey, these guys always show up in 3 pickup trucks. Okay, well that's good to know if you're doing a defense. Something like that. So understand your enemy. It depends on your enemy how you guard your place. Now there's 3 T's, and I'm just going to open up all 3 of them at the same time. There we go. Okay. Poor man's PowerPoint's not working. We're not reshooting. All right. 3 T's are train, time, and troops available. Again, there's another whole acronym that goes with terrain. We're not going into that right now. Maybe later. But you have to understand the terrain you are operating on. Where is the parts of the terrain that is difficult to traverse? Difficult to traverse on foot. Maybe you have a swamp, maybe you have a whole chunk of blackberry bushes. What's the parts of your terrain that are difficult to go across in vehicles? What's the key terrain? What is the terrain that if you're on it, and terrain is land, right? See, sometimes my brain, I've just got to put it into more civilian speak. Terrain is the land. Land and woods and stuff that's going on around you. There's probably a piece of terrain on your retreat property that holding that chunk of land gives a decisive advantage to who's ever holding it, whether that's the bad guys or the good guys. So you have to know what the key terrain is, and you have to hold it. You have to control it, at least. You may not have to be on it, but you have to control it. What are the avenues of approach? How is the enemy, which you've already done your assessment on, how are they going to come when they come? If these guys are bound in pickup trucks, your enemy is, let's say, well then you probably don't have to worry about the swamp side. But if these guys are stealth ninja turtles, maybe they'll come through the swamp. And so you got to understand your terrain. And the terrain's going to shape your mission. The terrain is going to shape how you accomplish your mission, how you guard your place. Time. How much time do you have? How much time do you have to get your defenses ready? How much time do you have to get your guard force in place? How much time do you want to secure the perimeter for? Maybe it's like, hey, we just need the guard force to hold off the forces of evil at the front gate for 15 minutes, and then that gives us enough time to do Plan B or something like that. But you have to do an investigation on time. I'll just tell you this, in a defensive position or aspect or something like that, and in a lot of ways your retreat is going to be a defensive position, you should never, ever stop improving your defensive capability. You should work on it all the time. Add some fence here, clear some fields of fire there, add an obstacle here, put an observation post here. You should constantly work on your defense. You've got the rest of your life to do that. And then troops. Hey, that's your troops. What troops do you have available? How well are they trained? What is their their status? What is their equipment? If your guys all have single shot shotguns, that's going to be a consideration that you need to consider when how you're going to guard your perimeter. You're obviously going to have to get closer than maybe if you had rifles or something like that. So you have to consider your own troops. Because, we could say, well, I'm going to put 5 guys here and 5 guys here and 3 guys here, and I'm going to have a ready reaction force here of 20 guys. And the reality is maybe you have 3 families living on your place. 6 adults and a couple teenagers. Hey, that's your troops. Now, what are you going to do with your troops? You have to use them to the best that you can. And then the C stands for civilians. And civilians are the people that aren't directly involved. Those are not your guard force, and those are not the attackers. It's everybody else. It's maybe the women and children, if you'll allow me that, or the older, the elderly people on your retreat. How is your plan going to affect them? It could be the neighborhood. You know, the people who aren't involved in this fight, you know, you probably don't want to be setting the woods on fire to defend yourself if that fire is going to spread and take out 6 of your neighbors. You know, something like that. So you do have to consider the civilians in the area when you're making your plans. So, mission, enemy, terrain, time, troops available, civilians. Those are considerations you need to start thinking about. In this case, it's for every mission, but in this case, we're going to kind of do a series, I think, on guarding your retreat. We'll go into some other things on guarding your retreat, but for now, why don't you start thinking about your location or your potential location in terms of this. And you've got a lot of work to do right here so that you can get ready. Get some maps. Get some maps of your area. That'll help you a lot to plot things. Get some acetate to put over it so you can draw with grease pencil or alcohol pens or something like that on it. Start looking at your area. Use Google Maps. Order some maps from the USGS. Start looking at your area. Start thinking about what's going on in your area. And we'll give you some more later. All right? I'll see you out there.